Okay, good morning. So we're continuing going through Siman Reish Daled. We're up to Sif Yud. Today we're going to cover the very interesting topic of chocolate raisins, chocolate peanuts, what bracha to make on that. Do you make on the chocolate, do you make on the peanuts, etc., etc. But first, let's start with the Sif Yud. Says the Mechaber, Dvash Devairim, honey from a bee, Harihu Kashar Dvash Ve'enu Mevarech Alav Shehakol. You make a bracha shehakol on that. It says in Mishnah Berurah Memtes Dvash Devairim Tuhu Bichlal Davar She'en Gidula Min Haaretz, because that's something which is not grown from the ground, and therefore you make a shehakol. Harihu Kashar Dvash, says Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotan Nun V'Nispa'eh B'Siman Reish Beis Sif Ches to Mevarech Olav Shehakol. You make a shehakol. Simona Ba'alma Nokten, it's really just sort of brought here just as a memory, a reminder. Even those who argue with dvash tamarim, with honey from dates, they would agree with honey from bees, even though they may drink some liquids from fruit, and they sort of eject it, and that's how they process it and make it into dvash. Even they would agree that there is no taste of the fruit in the bee honey, and everyone agrees that you make shehakol on bee honey. Okay, that's Yud. Yud Aleph. Chabushim, which are quinces, which are fruit, they're like pear-like fruit. Giddish, whatever that is another type of fruit. Veradim, or roses, or shamane peres va'asovim, or other types of fruits or flowers or grass. Shemerakchim bidvash, which you sort of pound them and you combine it with honey. Peres va'asovim heim ikka. The fruit and the grass is actually the ikka. Va'dvash tofel. And therefore you'd make the bracha of the fruit or the asovim. Even if they're very crushed, on those fruit you would make a ber pro'etz, on the roses, etc. you make a ber pro'adama. V'chol mirkachas, says the Ramosh, ein brim, any type of crushing which ein brim regilim by, which healthy people don't normally eat, that you would make a shehakol. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah Nun Aleph, heim ikka. So you've got the hadvash ein ele hechshle davar murkach, because the honey is just really to give it some flavor. To make it pleasant and ready to eat. And so too, shkedim, almonds, which are covered in sugar, even if they're totally covered in sugar, you haven't lost your status of fruit, and therefore you've got almonds covered in sugar-coated almonds or something like that, you still make a ber pro'etz. Even though you may actually have more sugar than fruit, ha-pri ikka, the pri is the ikka. Okay, let's just finish the Mishnah on this, and then we'll do the footnotes, because of course you can see where this is heading. This is our chocolate raisins and chocolate peanuts. So we'll see this in a second. Kusushim b'yoser, says the Mishnah Berurah in Nun Beis, Davka shekvar muhusa v'sa'ara. So even though it's crushed, even though the fruit or the hadoma is crushed, if it's totally pulverized, until the tzura is totally gone. In that situation, you would make a shehakol. That's like our Pringles. So therefore, if you've got, like, for example, crushed nuts and things like that, and with chocolate and things like that, then that you would make a shehakol. But we'll see soon about the raisins and the peanuts. Veradim, if you've got the rose petals and things like that, that's a ber pro'adama. Hainu roisin, b'lashon Ashkenaz, we puts at the bottom there sheishanim, roses. Avafal gav the pre-eitz, even though they are pre-eitz, they're grown on a tree. Shegdelim al ha'ilon. Mikol makom kiven she'ein on ikka pri. There's not the actual fruit of this tree. The zera shalahem heim ikka. The zera is the ikka. and what you're grinding is actually the flour. That's why you make a ber pradoma. V'chein al hilondra b'loshen Ashkenaz mevarich ber pradoma. The alfagav sheilondra gedelim be'ilan. Even though these things grow on the tree, the ikar pri hem good godios. The ikar pri is the berries, hashcheres, the black berries shegedelim be'ilan. V'doim marmish the din v'rodim. But if you're eating, however, the leaves or the fruit, the flowers of these trees, they have a din of ber pradoma. V'im toiman, if you want to ask, given the v'rodim lechazi lachila, since the actual roses are not really edible, lo chaim v'lo mevoshalin, not raw, not cooked, elim kein mevoshalin and dvash, the only way to really eat them is to eat this delicacy of rose petals with honey. I don't know if anyone's seen it. I've never seen it before. Rose petals with honey. Okay, could be a new thing. Lo im kein havle dvash ikka, and therefore surely the dvash should be the ikka, and therefore you should make a shahakal on this and not a ber pradoma, because you can't eat the rose petals straight or cooked. No, given the ikka tikun have rodim lachila in eleim hadvash, since the whole purpose of the rodim is the preparation of the rodim for eating is through the dvash. Have le dvash toffel. The dvash has got a status of toffel. Shari eina boel lahachshe. Because the function of the dvash is just to help you eat the vered, and therefore the dvash is toffel, the vered is ikka, and therefore you make a ber pradoma on that combination. It's like those fruit which cannot be eaten. Rosh mevarach aleim acha b'shulam brocha aruya lohem. Uchad lekam b'reishim and reish hey. Mitzvah will get there. Ve'eilonu om shevarach aleim shahakol mepei shamayim hamuvloim mehen hechshem lachila. Okay, good. Let's just finish the Mishnah Berurah. Actually, no. It's a good place to stop. So let's just go back a second. If you look at, that's the first note is number 39. Now that is at the back of the sefer. 39 on my one. It's on page 42 at the back. Yeah, have you got the page? I don't know if you've got the same numbering. If you look at page 42 at the back of the sefer, the Miluim, on footnote number 39. Yeah? Okay. V'im ikadaita ein el hasheket. Now, so he said you're eating chocolate-covered raisins. Or he says they're sugar-covered almonds. So sugar-covered almond, the Mishnah Berurah says very clearly, you make a ber eitz, because the ikar is the nuts, and the sugar is just to sweeten it. Says the footnote here in 39. V'im ikadaita ein el hasheket el ala tzipui. But if your intention is on the covering, you prefer the sugar, you wouldn't really be eating the nuts, but you're treating it like a sweet, then he quotes the Erletzion, Shemevarach Shahakal. So if I'm eating these almonds which are covered in sugar, but primarily because I want the sort of the sweet, I want the sugar, then I make a Shahakal. Val kol ponim midi sofek leyos v'sofek brachos hakal mevarach Shahakal. V'chein das Rabbi Yashiv agonim shem zaman arbach. Mevarach Shahakol, and the Shadaitam im Hasheket hu haroi v'asukari hamiut mevarach ber proetz u'poita es hakol. Now, Rabbi Yashiv and Rabbi Shlomo Zalman both say that if the majority of what you're eating is actually a nut, or is the almond in that situation, then you would actually go after the majority and you would make a ber proetz. Even if you're not sure, is there more sugar coating here, or chocolate as well, or is it more nuts? Then Hira Hagan Shlomo Zalman Arbach Shemevarach Hashakol V'chol Tara B'Sofik, and any combination where you're not sure which is the majority, then you'd make a shahakol. V'chein Hira Hagan Shmuel Vosna Legabe chocolate Memulaz Shivrei Egoizim. If you've got chocolate which is filled with which is covering crushed nuts, v'shkedim shebrachos shahakol. However, ikadaita ala chocolate. Since your focus primarily is on the chocolate, you would make a shahakol. Okay. Now then, Ubashadis Shuvazigros Moshe. Moshe's got a famous tshuva about this, and he says, "Legabe tzimukim mitzupim chocolate." If you've got raisins, chocolate-covered raisins, shekiven shereitz hein es hapri vehen es hashokolat. Because says Moshe, you want both. I want the raisins and I want the chocolate. I want the combination of the two. Tzarich levarich al shnehem. Rav Moshe famously says on chocolate raisins and chocolate peanuts, you make two brachos, right? Now you got a problem, because if you got a chocolate raisin, what's the first bracha you're going to make? The shahakol. because you can't access the raisin without the chocolate first. So says Ramosha, you make the shahakal on the chocolate bit, and have in mind not to be yotze the pre-inside, and then you make a berpro on the raisin, which is very interesting. Anyway, he says, if you've got other fruit there, then make a berpro, and if you've got a glass, a drink or whatever, then you make a shahakal, and then you're yotze. But Ramosha's shitta with chocolate raisins and chocolate peanuts is to make 2 brachos. Peanuts, by the way, are berpro adoma. Other nuts, almonds, whatever other nuts, hazelnuts and things like that, and raisins certainly make berpro 8. So Ramosha says you make 2 brachos. Rabbi Shlomo Zalman and Rabbi Elyashiv say that you would go after what is the majority. If you're not clear what the majority is, then you make a shahakal. So interesting. Okay, let's go back to.
Same for the sugar-coated ones as well.
Yeah, yeah. That's what. So if your focus is really on the sugar, I see Ramosha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's why you're having it. L'chora. Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to Mishnah Berurah. So, Nun Dalet. So then the Ramah said that if a person is eating these things only for refuah, you make a shahakal. So Nun Dalet. Hatam ta'af denena, even though someone who gets hanoah, ein ze ik hanosoi. That's not the ik hanoah, given she'en habriim regilim le'echol eseh bekach, she'omed rak le'refuah. So a person is eating these things for refuah purposes, then you would make a shahakal. So if you look at 43, Rachmana litzlan, if a person is eating, we're talking about medical eating, so he says, if he's being fed through tubes and things like that, Rachmana litzlan, ha'im chayiv b'bracha. If a person is being fed through various tubes and pipes, does he make a bracha on his intake? Da'as hagonim Elyashiv, she'ein levarach al hazon melachtis. You don't make a bracha on this type of contraption. Lo b'tchila v'lo b'seif, not a bracha before, not a bracha afterwards. Mishum she'ein nechsheves k'derech achila klal. That's not considered eating at all. V'v'shal yeshuvas chalkas Yaakov, kasav shemach she'ein oichel derech piv. Since you're not eating it via your mouth, ein nechshev derech achila. That's not considered eating, or patim bracha tchila v'seif. You don't make a bracha before or afterwards. V'sim k'sheritz lahidas l'Hashem al mazona yom eizet tefillah p'sukei tehillim. You're thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ultimately, you're being fed, albeit through pipes in the stomach or whatever it is. So whilst it's not considered derech achila and a person doesn't make a bracha, you can say a few psukim of thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu afterwards to thank him. Okay, nun hey. Mevarchin alav shahakal. So since you're eating it for a refuah, you make a shahakal. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Nun Hey. V'ayim bedek habayis shekosav sheroiv hapoiskim chalkim al zeh v'chein iskim achreinim shetzorich levarich alav bracha ariyah lo kivin shal kol ponim nehene. And therefore, if there's some sort of fruit or something like that, you can make berpro. If you're getting hana from it, even though it's for medical purposes, you would make the appropriate bracha. So you're having an apple because an apple, for medical purposes, the doctor says eat the apple, it's good for you. Then even though you're eating it for medical purposes, you would still make a bracha of berpro. Yud Beis and Gimel very short. Maybe we've got a couple of minutes. I'll just take 2 minutes. Yud Beis. Kolsho. Now the main brachas of Iker and Tofel are going to come soon, but he's just mentioning it here. Derech Agav. Kolsho Iker v'imot tefela. Whenever you've got a combination of something which is Iker primary and something which is secondary, mevarich ala Iker poites atfela. You make a bracha only on the Iker, not on the Tofel. V'chol davar shema'arvin oiso ledabik. And so anything which you're combining it to stick together. Or you're putting spices in. Yeah, for example, you got like a cheesecake and you got just a little bit of mazonis in or a flour in a soup just to thicken it a little bit. That's not the ikka. It's just there to thicken it, or you've got spices in it just to flavor it. Harizu tefela, those are considered tofel. Avalim orav kadei litin tam b'tarabas. If you're adding it to give tam, harizu ikka, then it becomes the ikka. Lefichach, and then we'll discuss ikka and tofel in more detail, Mr. Shem, coming up. Lefichach minei dvash, honey things, shemevashne mesom, where you cook them. V'noistin bohem chelev chita kadei ledabik. You put some mazonis in it to like a thickening agent. V'oisim minei mesiko, sweetening agents. Einem mevarich barmne mazonis, mipnei shehadvash hu ha'ikka. V'nira if you're doing it to give flavor, then it's different. Then it becomes the ikka. It's got to be some sort of proper substance. It's not just enough if you add salt and pepper. That doesn't become the ikka. You add some sort of spices. the betalin b'miut, and they're totally bottled b'miut. Afal gav shenoisnin tam, even though they may give flavor. Lochein nagin shel levarich rak ala merkachas v'lo ala b'somim shebohen. Okay, and then just he finishes off in Yud Gimel, Kol Dover Shu Mesuper Brachos Yivarach Shahakol, which we'll see the Mishnah Berurah where he says, Yud Beis, says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Kotan and Vav, Al Ha'ika. So you make a bracha on the Ika. Ayin Lekam and Siman Reish Yud Beis, that's the main sugyas. Shamavu, Kol Pritidin Ika V'Tafel. There we'll discuss, Mr. Hashem, Ika and Tafel in more detail. Harihu Ika, V'hamogan Avram, Mashar Chreinim Hiskimu, V'hu Davka B'chameshes Minei, Dogon Amrina Dehechad Debol Litein Tam, Afshu Miyah to Ika. We'll see that when you add mezoinus in that situation, it's dafka with mezoinus. They, even though they could be the minority, it has the status of ikka. In all other situations, you go boss of the rove. Yeah, okay. Well, Mishnah will come to all these halachas. Okay, and if you're not sure, you make a shahakol. Says the Mishnah Berurah Nun Tes Shu Mesupuk Ayin Le'el Siman Reish Beis Mishnah Berurah Tibah Maschil Ve'im. If you look at 45, he says over there, because over there we said that's only if you haven't learned. Ach misha haylo lilmed v'lo lamad lo yochel ad she'elech etzel chacham mishilamed osei. Don't say that I don't know what the bracha is, therefore I'll make a shahakol. Go find out. Or mishle lamad poita asam v'rich shahakol kosav ali rabba b'shem Arizal shar bichlal. Bar shekilu Chazal. He's considered like an ignoramus that Chazal have criticized, have cursed. So a person has got to find out. You can't just make a shahakol. It's only if there's a sofik in halach or something like that, which we discussed, you make a shahakol. Says the Mishnah Berurah, you've gotten samach yivarich shahakol. The b'diavad yosef shahakol al kol dover. V'kan kiven shemesupuk b'diavad domi. This is considered like a b'diavad. Mikol makom im hu dover sheyochel apotra teichasuda adu tfei. If you're not sure, in terms of halacha, and you can put it inside of a meal, then that takes away the sofik. That's preferable. Okay.